Minhaj Welfare Foundation launched the campaign in supporting our Syrian brothers and sisters in the year 2012. We initially supported those in Egypt and those living in surrounding areas. But after time, Minhaj Welfare Foundation has seen the situation increasing and escalating. This is why this year we made this commitment, we made this intention of further supporting our brothers and sisters in need. In February 2016, 18th of February 2016, Minhaj Welfare Foundation and its team traveled to the Turkey and Syria border, where currently there are millions and millions of Syrian refugees who are residing in makeshift homes, in camps. Some of the Turkish residents and some of the Turkish people have rented out their homes, their garages to these people. And this is the current situation that we see in that particular area. There are millions more in other countries, Lebanon, Egypt, but Minhaj Welfare Foundation traveled with his team into the area where majority of the Syrian refugees are at this present moment of time, and that is the Turkey and Syria border. More than 90,000 Syrian refugees are living in a small area called Rihale. 90,000 Syrian refugees, some of whom were living in really good conditions in Syria. So some of whom were teachers, doctors, professionals, some of whom had lived a very good life in Syria. But after the crisis broke out in Syria in 2011, these individuals have unfortunately left their homes. They have left their homes and tried to seek a safe haven or try to seek a safer environment in Turkey. Once we arrived in Rihale, we saw many Syrian refugees scattered, as I said before, scattered in makeshift camps, in makeshift tents, in homes, in some of the residents in that particular region were kind enough to provide their homes to some of these Syrian refugees. Some of them had rented out their garages to some of these Syrian refugees. We saw thousands and thousands of Syrian refugees whose unfortunately limbs had been amputated, who had missed a leg, who'd unfortunately been attacked by the bombs in Syria. Some of these Syrian affectees were living in rehabilitation centers that were established by some of the Syrian doctors and medical staff that were currently living in Turkey. So as we went into Rihale, we saw this unfortunate situation where Syrians and our brothers and sisters were living in very extreme circumstances, living in very extreme situations where, unfortunately, they did not have basic essentials such as food, water, or sanitation. There was a small scenario which we saw more than 15 people living in a very small room. But this is what the reality is at this very present moment of time in Syria. Once we arrived in Rihale, we visited various locations. We went to the camps. We went to those areas where they were living in makeshift camps. We went to the rehabilitation centers. We went to some of the temporary schools that were established by some of the Syrian people that were living there. We went to some of the orphanages to see some of the orphans that were residing there. We went to an all-female rehabilitation center. We went to an all-male rehabilitation center. So we, over the 4 or 5 days, we had an opportunity to see various locations and to see various situations of both young and old. Minhaj Welfare Foundation distributed more than 320 food parcels, packages, to those living in those particular locations.